From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Kyle Fredrickson. Kyle, after that Texas game, a lot of talk about Mason Rudolph. Obviously, where is his confidence at this point? Where is his health at this point? We got an update on a little bit of all of that on Monday from the Cowboys. First of all, health. Long term, is he going to be okay?
It sure seems like it. You know, there was Mike Gundy went on the Big 12 teleconference that morning before the press conference and kind of broke the news that Mason had some hand numbness from taking a hit. And, you know, you kind of look back at the game and you think, okay, maybe that was one of the issues. But Rudolph certainly didn't make it an excuse. You know, he talked about just having better decision makings, understanding the flow of the offense, you know, making better reads and all that. And Gundy said the same thing. He didn't really think it affected his play, although he said earlier in the day that it at least happened. So health-wise, he's good physically, but mentally, you wonder after a game like that where you throw a couple interceptions, you know, you have the fumble for the return touchdown, basically 14 free points on Mason's shoulders in that game. Now, the interesting thing with him is that, you know, most guys making just their 7th start, you give them a pass. You know, this is a young guy figuring it out. Rudolph, it's different. When you start your career with Bedlam and Cactus Bowl victories, and you know he's on a 6-game winning streak as it is, even after that game, the expectations are higher. So you really wonder where he's at in his development. If this is a game he can build upon, if this is maybe a sign of some of the issues he's going to have all year long. But there's no doubt that he's in a strange situation. I mean, we're talking about a guy who had a senior year of high school where he went undefeated and won a state title. Even the year before, you know, he threw for 3,900 yards and 40 touchdowns, made it to the state title game and lost. So you got to go back to really his sophomore year of high school to where he really would have struggled heavily and had to overcome some of these things. So he's got some of that background. He's had to go through this before. It's just been such a long time. You wonder in this situation if he can really lean on those experiences or if this is just something completely new for him altogether.
Well, and you have to wonder about confidence too from the standpoint of J.W. Walsh being inserted. Now, everybody knows, and Mike Gundy made a point of this, Mike Yursich probably did too, that you know, J.W. Walsh is going to play. Everybody knows that. But it's a situational thing with him for the most part. Short yardage, down by the goal line, run downs. He got inserted in first and 10 situations near midfield. I mean, that's not where he is at his best. So that has to play into Mason Rudolph's psyche some as well.
Yeah, you would have to think so. And, you know, he's a strong-minded kid. It's something that players have told us ever since that Bedlam win. That's one of the reasons they have so much confidence. He doesn't get shaken. He's a guy who just plays after mistakes. So, you know, that might play a factor. And you're right. It got to a point in the Texas game where it was simply just indecisiveness. It felt like the coaching staff didn't know what the best option was, and they kept changing their mind. And when you're a young quarterback and need to be the leader of a team, it's pretty important to know that in pressure situations that you're going to be the guy no matter how old you are, no matter how well you've been playing. That's something where confidence is huge. And it's clear that in that second half, Mason lost a little bit of that. You know, the coaching staff, wasn't allowing him to throw. And when he was, you know, some of the balls were still sailing. It just wasn't really what we had seen in the past. You know, obviously the relationship between Rudolph and Walsh is very good. I don't think we need to have any concerns about those two batting heads over something like this. But Rudolph is just so young, like you mentioned. How does this impact his development? If OSU gets into a tight game late moving forward in the Big 12, what is the coaching staff going to do? How is Rudolph going to feel? Is he going to remember this Texas game and think, oh, here we go, they're just going to put in JW again because he's the senior and I'm the sophomore? So it's weird. It's another odd kind of quarterback handling and a string of them from Gundy over the years. So you just kind of, you know, OSU fans are probably just hoping at this point that the Cowboys don't get put in a similar position because I think they'd love to see Rudolph be the guy moving forward.
Well, let's remember, this was really the first time he struggled. As you mentioned, 6-game winning streak. He'd had a pretty good performance at Baylor his first game. This was really the first time he had any struggles, and then he gets the hook. So you have to wonder what kind of emphasis that puts on having a good start against K-State on Saturday, because K-State's defense, that's their strength. They're going to try to hold teams down as much as they can. In my mind, I would think Mason Rudolph needs to go out and have a good showing to start with to get that confidence back in the right frame of mind.
He certainly does, and I tell you what, it would so much help if this team could establish a run game. Because, you know, Kansas State's one of the best in the nation. They're ranked, I think, 8th in run defense, albeit they've played a very soft non-conference schedule. But if they could have a run game to complement his throwing ability, there wouldn't be so much pressure on him late in games to make plays. You know, OSU ran the ball 10 times in the fourth quarter, and you know, pretty much every one was for 0 or 1 yard gain with all the punts that we saw. So establish the run game. You know, if OSU is able to not be in a tight one late, I think Rudolph continues to build on some of that confidence, and this Texas game can kind of get pushed to the side.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.